One of my subscribers suggested this story, and it's something that's become an urban legend over the past 30 years or so. The story I'm talking about dates back to the late 80s in Denver, when supposedly a deranged man held up a radio station at gunpoint. He would order them to play nothing but the music of the Smiths for 4 consecutive hours before the police convinced the assailant to give himself up. It's been widely reported and accepted that this event did in fact happen, but there's more to the story, and it didn't exactly go down the way it's been described in the press or on internet message boards. That's what we're going to talk about in today's video. The incident had been reported as being true by several media sources, including IndieWire and The Believer. It has even been discussed in the book St. Morrissey. Not only that, but according to IMDb, Hollywood is making a movie about the whole incident called Shoplifters of the World, and it's also been long rumored that the 1994 film Airheads, starring Brendan Fraser, Steve Buscemi, and Adam Sandler, was also based on this story. Local Denver publication Westward looked into this urban legend and uncovered a much more different story than what had previously been reported. The publication initially reached out to St. Morrissey's author Mark Simpson, who stated, and I quote, "I can't remember now what my sources were, except from some online bits and pieces back in the late 90s and early 90s. It seems rather unlikely the event did actually happen if your paper didn't report it. But obviously it was such a great story for my purposes that I didn't really want to know if it didn't actually happen. Though I will keep on pretending it did, probably because I could have easily done something similar myself back in the day," he'd say. The paper also reached out to the production of Shoplifters of the World, with an anonymous source from the movie claiming that despite all their research for the film, they couldn't find any evidence that this incident happened. They did, however, point westward to an interview that Morrissey gave to Details magazine in 1994, where the incident was in fact discussed. The article would state, "When Morrissey heard what had happened, he felt, of course, extreme pleasure. But how do you know about it?" he demanded. "I've never come across anybody who knew about it, and the fact that the siege has never been properly reported anywhere outrages Morrissey. If it was any other artist, it would have been world news, but because it was the poor old Tatty Smiths, it was of no consequence whatsoever," he would tell the interviewer. The Denver Post did in fact, however, cover the incident at the time, reporting that an 18-year-old man spent months staking out his target, a radio station, the now defunct KRXY or Y108. The Post corroborated the long-rumored story that the man was going to take the employees hostage and have them play the Smiths on repeat. And according to the paper, the gunman did in fact drive down to the radio station and apparently had second thoughts and soon gave himself up. The Post article stated the following at the time: radio station KRXY Y108, the Lakewood-based Top 40 station, got a request that was hard to ignore. An 18-year-old Arvada man entered the station with a rifle to insist the station play 7 tapes and an album by the Smiths, the now defunct British band led by the whiny-voiced singer Morrissey. The man was arrested after he changed his mind and gave the weapon to a station employee. He's now in the Jefferson County Jail awaiting a psychiatric evaluation. But the lighter side, the fan should have known better than to request the Smiths from a Top 40 station. As far as Top 40 is concerned, Morrissey might as well be a Martian. For his Smiths fix, the guy should have thrown his gun into the lake and tuned into Fort Collins KTCL, which plays the band in regular rotation, the article would state. Westward was able to obtain the police report from the incident, and the event occurred in the fall of 1988, and the police had 2 witnesses. The suspect was an 18-year-old man named James Kiss, who, according to the report, was a very troubled individual. He did in fact intend on taking over the station at gunpoint and wanting to force them to play the music of the Smiths. In the 6 months in the run-up to that fateful fall date, Kiss had purchased a Remington 22 caliber Apache 77 rifle and had surveilled the station by driving by it on several occasions and even entering the premises and even chatted with the receptionist. Fast forward to Tuesday night when the incident happened, Kiss showed up to the building housing the station with his rifle and 6 cassette tapes of the Smiths, in addition to 1 Morrissey album. Production director Greg Fattig was leaving work for the day around 5 p.m. and walking to his truck. Parked next to him was Kiss, who was in a station wagon. Kiss motioned to Fattig to come over to his driver's side window, and upon rolling down the window, Fattig saw a rifle pointed at his face. Within a few seconds, Kiss turned the rifle around and handed the butt end to Fattig and said, "Would you go inside and call someone and tell them that I need help?" Fattig ran back into the station and asked the receptionist to call 911. When the police arrived, they approached Kiss, who was sitting calmly in his vehicle, and asked him to get out. After patting him down for weapons, they found ammunition for his rifle on the dashboard, and Kiss would reveal to the authorities that he got cold feet. So you may be wondering, why carry out such an action in the first place? Well, according to the police report, Kiss believed, and I quote, "The Smiths play music about how insensitive everyone is, and he wanted to play their music as a sign of protest." Radio station Y108 was chosen because they were the most popular station in the city at the time, and he despised top 40 music. The police would search Kiss's home, and they also found several written letters to his parents, painting a picture of a young man who was lost in life. Kiss would be arrested on suspicion of attempted first-degree kidnapping and extortion, but the Jefferson County District Attorney ended up dropping the charges because Kiss didn't go through with his plans and renounced his planned actions. In the end, it ended up being a big wake-up call for Kiss. In fact, Westword was able to track him down after all these years, and they found a man in his 40s who used that incident to turn his life around. He explained his actions that day, telling the publication, "My intention was to throw my life away. At that time, I just wanted somebody else to make the decisions. If you're going to throw your life away, you might as well do it in a way that makes the most sense to you, I guess. I guess you would have to understand the Smiths and know the Smiths to understand that there was something poetic about a top 40 radio station playing all Smiths songs." At the time of his arrest, Kiss had recently graduated from high school, and he was dealing with a physical injury that prevented him from getting a job. He was also dealing with depression, telling the same newspaper, "I was not really liking what life was like. Anybody who's listened to the Smiths knows that if you're depressed, they're great to listen to." And several months after the incident, Kiss seemed to have turned his life around. He enrolled in classes at Metro State, and soon started to meet people just like him, and over 30 years later, he now finds himself working with young people, telling the publication, "I can see it when kids start to paint themselves into corners, and I try to get them to work their way out of that," he'd say. That does it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like button and subscribe. We'll see you again on Rock and Roll True Stories. Take care.